This video will demonstrate how to use 3 instances of Reaper and 3 different virtual audio cables to route everything for another interesting setup using some different software and some different techniques. Let me show you what we already have here. We have Mumble out channel on Reaper. This Reaper is the first one we use, which is the core. Everything comes into here, goes to the sound card in an exclusive mode setting. I'll open this up so that you can see the settings. So we're using the Mumble out virtual audio cable. So that's everything comes into here from the Mumble output and goes to the desktop where I can control it. I'm also bringing in, so I can hear it, a few other things, and I'll show you those one by one here. First, we have the Mumble output on VB cable B. So that's going to my desktop so I can hear it and I can control it. The other thing we have is an alternative is to regenerate that signal. One of the advantages of this is being able to change the pitch. And it's a similar technique as before. We're using a gate with a threshold. If you go above the threshold, you don't hear anything. You try to get it just under it. It sends out a MIDI note. That MIDI note keys this sine wave synthesizer here with an attack of 4 milliseconds, a release of 4 milliseconds. That's the fall time. Everything else is default. Then we have a little bandpass filter with a 500 to 1K, 500 hertz to 1K split. Looking at the notes here in the spectrum analyzer. So if we turn the regen off, bring up the Mumble, this is what it sounds like by itself. This is right here. We're using a filter. There's a VU meter on how much is coming into the desktop. Filter, another scope, and that's what their signal looks like. And the FL-Digi is transmitting, and that's what FL-Digi looks like at 8 millisecond rise and fall time. And you can increase this on the scope. And we have an analyzer. So if we took the filter off, brings in a little lower spectrum noise. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit and then bring the filter in and out. As you can hear, FL-Digi is pretty good by itself. It has a good sound, doesn't need much filtering. That's available. Again, we have coming in naturally with the original tone, or taking the original tone and regenerating it so that we can control it and keep it that way no matter what their other pitch is. We also have desktop audio.
Testing integer and floating point performance. If you look here, these are sort
from a podcast there. We have YPLog, and I have a setup for that. So I have, you see I have 2 FXs checked for plugins. So I'm going to take it off the desktop audio where the podcast was playing. We're going to turn the podcast off. And then we're going to turn YPLog on and bring it up and see if we get anything. So during a QSO, this is probably going to be the main And again, we have these meters on the left. This meter system on the left is going to the Mumble input, and this is from the Mumble output, or is from other sources so that I can hear it to the desktop, which is why you see this mic, since I'm sending to the desktop audio so I can monitor my voice here. Okay, so we have CW keyboard, we have paddles, straight key, we have another external K1EL keyboard. Turn that down a little bit there. That's from the K1EL keyboard. So we have every Morse instrument coming in as before in some of the other videos. We're able to monitor the signal. So let's go to the Mumble output again. So you can monitor the Mumble output and what their basic spectrum looks like and their basic volume coming in. So that's kind of convenient. One of the other softwares we're using so that when I adjust these sliders that I don't lose YPLog's focus is this thing called DeskPins. There was no way to right click and choose say on top, so I found this program called DeskPins, and it works really cool. You just double click that and it gives you a little icon, and you just stick a pin on whatever program you want to stay up. So whether I hit this slider or not, YPLog is always there, and I come right back. And let's take YPLog side-tone again down. So I can, you can barely hear it, yet it's still the same volume going to the Mumble input as the meter shows on the left. If you received a text message, you just can highlight it and then type in what you want. And it goes to that room or whoever you want to send a message to. And then we bring the focus back again when we're done with the message so we can see the metering. I'll show you the other Reapers here now. This is to the Mumble input. So in the first one, this for the paddles and straight key and the K1EL keyboard, the first track comes in from the mic jack. I'm going to open this up again so you can look at my settings. So the mic jack in exclusive mode, we're connecting the mic jack to VB cable A. VB cable A is where Mumble is listening. So right here, cable A for the input, cable B for the output. And we can do a loopback test. And we need to open up the Mumble output to hear that. Go into a different room. Second tone is the bounce back from the server. So the bounce back tone sounds just like the going in tone. So that looks good. And let's go back to that Reaper setting, to the Mumble input. So this first track is to come straight in. Let me see if I can get this done. And I'm trying to use a MIDI situation here. Since this is outputting to the Mumble input via VB cable A, it goes to resynth, and then this little filter, and then over to the mumble input. Now, so I can hear it, it also is sending a MIDI note, 77. This resynth goes to VB cable A. And because I have an auxiliary output, which is another technique we're showing in this video, I'm sending it to a virtual MIDI loop cable called loop MIDI port 1. And in the settings of Reaper, I've enabled that MIDI cable. And so over here on this side tone, you see it lighten up. That's because the input is loop MIDI port 1. So that MIDI note 77 comes in and keys this sine wave synthesizer. Only this time it's going to my sound card so I can hear it. That's what it looks like there from the waveform shape in the oscilloscope. And there's the spectrum, just as before in the previous videos. But this is a technique to send information, MIDI information, from one Reaper to another for two different purposes. This Reaper sends it to VB cable A, the output of that synthesizer and filter, but it also at the same time, this regate sends MIDI note 77 to loopback 1, loop MIDI port 1, and since I'm listening over here to loop MIDI port 1, it brings it into the system. And just like if regate was already right here, but it sends the MIDI note over through that virtual MIDI cable, then I can key the synthesizer with it. And this adjusts the filtering accordingly, just like in the other ones. And it's a very low latency. So I don't notice any difference between it being right here to the sound card or coming over here first and then to the sound card. So it's just another technique of sending MIDI information from one tract in one Reaper to another tract in a separate Reaper, an additional Reaper. So we have desktop audio, YPLog audio, regen. This is my USB microphone coming in from a fourth Reaper right here. So I have it coming in. It's a mono microphone, so only have to worry about that one input. And I'm just using the mic by itself without any additional plugins. I'm just sending it to this Reastream. And this is another technique of how to get information from one Reaper to another Reaper. And it sends it locally, broadcasting it, so I'm sending audio and or MIDI information from my microphone to this Reastream app. And then over here, in this microphone track, I have the microphone. All you have to do is keep the identifiers unique to each instance of Reastream. So now I'm in receive mode. I'm receiving the designator microphone, and that's going directly to the sound card so I can monitor my voice and how loud I should be. Better than not hearing it at all, and also send it to the video recorder, which is listening to stereo mix. So we have side tone here, adjustable. So one of the unique things about this setup is you can adjust all these sliders without changing how much goes to mumble input, so you don't have to worry about it. The other thing is with DeskPins, it'll stick YPLog right here. Let me turn YPLog up a little bit. And as you see, when I adjust the slider, it doesn't disappear. Otherwise it would lose focus and Reaper would be on top of it, then you would have to come down and find it again. So this keeps everything right there where it's easy to get to it. The meters are interesting. They're from Breakaway Audio. The links will be in the show notes. You get both a VU meter with a peak reading LED bar and a general, and you get a little spectrum readout here, And you get a little oscilloscope readout here. So it's kind of a neat piece of software, and this is free. And I think that's just about it for this setup. It's useful to be able to identify different techniques that you can use with some software that you may be unaware of, or that the learning curve makes it worthwhile to kind of get in there and test it out a little bit. So if I was going to play browser audio or a media player, I would just click this and turn YPLogs off. They both have different identifiers. On the Reastream, this one's CW keyboard for if I use YPLog. So I just unarm it. So this one is just default. Right there, default. That's just for general audio. You can apply other plugins in here too if you wanted to. So I think that's basically the setup here. It's exercise in testing the ability of WASAPI exclusive mode using Reaper, multiple instances of Reaper to route audio. Thank you for watching.